In this video, I'll start to show you around WordPress and I'll show you how to start updating your website in Elementor Page Builder. If you have any questions, the best place to start is the Facebook group. So if you head over to the Facebook group, the easiest way to get there is to go to richtoymedia.com/group. And if you're not already a member of the group, go ahead and request to join and I'll accept you into the group. And feel free to add a video if you want to use Loom to capture your screen. If you have any specific questions, or just type in a question and I'd be happy to answer any of those questions. The group will be the best place to have questions. That way we can start to build that community with asking and answering questions and just helping each other out. So let's get started on editing your new website. So I'll just show you, this is one of the template sites that I have for a client. And this is the beginning of the template. So you just see there's a few different pages, different layouts, and you'll be able to get in and edit any part of this website to make it your own. So I have over 100 different website templates that you can start from. So I'll just head back to the home page here. And to log into your website, we're going to add to the end of your homepage URL wp-admin, ADMIN. Enter. So I do want to point out the domain name real quick on this website. This is on a Cloudways subdomain. So one of the things I like about Cloudways is you don't have to settle on your company name and purchase a domain name in order to be able to start building your website. So whenever you install WordPress on Cloudways, they give you a subdomain at Cloudways. So you don't have to think about what the URL is going to be. They just automatically set you up with a randomized subdomain, so you can get WordPress started without having to worry about that yet. So this is our temporary subdomain, and I'll show you in a later video how to change this to your custom domain. And I'll also show you where to purchase that domain and how to go through the process of connecting the two. So I just wanted to touch on that. But right now we're at the WordPress login screen. So I will enter my username and password and hit login. So once you're logged into your website, you'll be greeted by your dashboard. Your dashboard is where all of your tools and settings and plugins reside. You don't really need to get into any of this right now. We're going to focus on starting to get your website edited on the front end. So we'll deal with some more of the back end setup later. I will say though, in your dashboard, you do have the top panel here where I've included some resources, trainings, and help and support. The best place to get support would be in the Facebook group, but feel free to send me a Facebook message or an email anytime you have questions aside from that. But let's go ahead and jump into editing our website. So the first thing I'm going to do is go to my pages, and pages will pull up all of the pages that have been built for our website. So we want to find the home page, and that's marked as the front page. So this is the page that people are going to land on when they go to our main URL for our website. So I'm going to hit edit with Elementor, and that's going to open up our website to be edited. So I will say that we will edit our header separately from our website, and I'll show you where to go to edit this header by default. So there's different options to add headers from other plugins, but I'll show you how we're set up right now to do the header. But for now, we're just going to start on editing the website. One thing I'll show you real quick is an alternative way of getting into the editor. So once we're in the editor, to get back out of the editor, we hit this top menu button and say View Page. So when you're logged into your WordPress website and you go onto any specific page, let's just say we'll go to the Work With Me page as another option. You'll find that on all of your pages you have options up at the top. So this will get you back to your dashboard. This is your customizer, and your customizer is where you're going to edit your header and some other overall section settings for your website. So the dashboard option, the customizer, and then edit with Elementor is the items that we're probably going to want to use the most. So you also have edit page. That's editing the page with the native WordPress editor, but we don't want to use that. We want to use the front end editor. So we want to edit with Elementor. And this brings us again into the same editing interface. So once again, let's go back to menu, view page, and that brings us back out of the editor. So now I'm going to just click on the icon and bring back to the home page. And I'm going to go into edit with Elementor so we can edit the home page in Elementor. So the first thing to note is that you have sections, columns, and elements. And those are designated by these three handle options right here. So if I want to move this element, say I want to put this button above this element, I grab on that handle and I can drag and drop right above. And actually I want to bring that text back above the button, so I just drag and drop just like that. So if you want to grab onto an element, you don't want to just grab onto the picture. You don't want to click on the picture. You actually want to grab onto the handle of the element. So I can grab onto this handle, so I can click and drag over, and I can insert this picture over here if I want, but that's really not what I wanted. So I can drag that right back over. Same thing, I can bring this button up above the text if I want to. So let's go ahead and start up at the top. Same thing here. I can bring this button to the top if I need to. And bring it back down. To edit text, you can just click right inside the text, highlight, and start typing. Anything you want. And in addition to that, over to the left is all of your options for styling, advanced options for placement of the elements, and then on this heading element, we can also type over here. So you can do it on the page, but you can also type over here. And then I can change if it's left justified, right justified, centered. I can change my heading tags. So all of your options are going to also be in this left-hand column, in addition to being able to move things around, just drag and drop in the visual editor. So typography, if I want to change anything about the way that font looks, you can upload custom fonts. So right now I'm just using the default font family, but I can change it to any of these in addition to uploading custom fonts, which I'll show you in another video. But we can change any of that. You can add drop shadow, change how that looks, blur the drop shadow a little bit so it kind of pops off the page a little more. Okay, so now we're happy with that. Let's go ahead and change this button. So I'm going to edit the text over here on the left hand side. So type of button, there's different types. Typically these will change the color of the button. So you see I hover over, it's red. I think these actually aren't affecting it because it's using the overall system-wide settings for color. So we're just going to leave that to default, and I'll show you how you can manually change those colors as well. So let's say click me. so we can change the text there. And for a link, let's just say we're going to make that a link to the Facebook group. We'll copy that and we just paste it right in here. And we can tell it that we want to open that in a new window if we want to. And we have some styling options. So this is where we would change the background color. We can change that to a different color. Have all kinds of options. Okay, so now we can't see the text because it's white. So now we need to go into the text color option. It's right above. And we'll make that a dark blue. And it's a little light, so I'm going to go to typography. And I'm going to make that bold. Yeah, so it's a little easier to read. Okay, so you see how you can kind of drag things around. So let's say we'll edit this picture and click on the handle. When you first start using Elementor, you're going to get these little pop-ups to show you what you can do. This is just letting me know that I can right-click and get more options to do different things on these elements. So what I want to do though is change this picture. So I'm going to select the picture, hover over, and I can choose the image. If I wanted to, I could also just delete the picture. Now the picture element is still in this cell. So I can still go here and choose an image to go in that spot. Media library, and let's see what we've got to choose from here. There we go. Looks like some of the stuff is, I thought it wasn't loading, but it's actually background images. So let's say we want to use this picture, or we use this picture, insert. So there, we can insert a different picture and change the properties to the maximum width of the picture. And if at any time we want to undo something, you can also use Command Z if you're on a Mac, or Control Z if you're on a PC, and that will undo. So I can continuously go back and undo and put that picture back. I can continue to undo, and it's going to undo these settings all the way back. All the way back. So that is awesome, to have an undo function that anything that you've done, you can just undo. That's really nice. So you have tons of flexibility and options to come in and change these, change your text, change your colors. If you want to change like these background colors, you can select the section, and there's tons of options in style. So this is a gradient, and you can change the color here. So say I want to make this a pink, and bring that over here and make that pink. And then if I play around with these, it's going to change how hard that line is. So that's the location for the pink versus the white. And then I can also change the location of the pink side and reduce that, bring it back down. So you have a lot of control over exactly how you want your page to look. And again, I can undo that, and I will undo these settings just to get us back to our color scheme that goes with what we're doing right now. So yeah, some of these other elements we can click on here, and this gives us the option to change these images. And let's say we want to add a new section right underneath this section. So what we'll do is we'll hover over the section below where we want to add a new section, and we'll hit Add Section, the plus, and that's going to add a new section. So what we can do here is click on the folder and since we're adding a section and not a full page, we won't want to look at this tab. We want to look at the blocks tab. So you have a lot of options here for different blocks that you can insert. And any of the ones that say Pro on there are going to require you to upgrade to Elementor Pro. But there's also a lot of options that don't require the upgrade. There's a lot of free options here. So we could insert any of these options just as a template to start from. And if we don't want to use something pre-made, if we already know what we want and we just want to build it, we can go back out of that option. Let's get back to where we were. So before we clicked on the folder, so now if we just click on plus, this is going to give us options to structure this section, because we're going to build this to be exactly what we want. So I can make this a full width section. If you know for sure that you want to have 3 elements in 3 columns, you can do that. You can kind of have a little sidebar option, left or right. So you have a lot of different options here, just depending on what you're trying to build out. So for right now, I'm just going to do a full width section. And I need to get an element to go in here, so I can hit this plus, and it will bring me back to all of my elements options. So let's say that we want to add a YouTube video in here. So I can just grab one of these elements. So we'll take the video element, and I'll drop it right in there. So now we have our video in here. It automatically opens our settings for that. But again, we could click up here on the handle, and it's going to open up our settings as well. So we can do YouTube, Vimeo, Dailymotion, or self-hosted. So I'm just going to say we'll use YouTube. You may want to use Vimeo just for more branding. YouTube, you're capable of linking out to YouTube, which you can see other people's content and whatnot. I think Vimeo's a better option unless you're trying to grow a YouTube channel, and then you may want to just use a YouTube video. One thing to note is that you want to grab a link that has the watch in the title of the link. So if you go over to YouTube and notice the share option does not have watch in the URL. So what you want to do is you want to go up to your title bar and copy the URL that has watch in it and paste that URL in, and there you go, you'll have your video. So if I want to change the size of this, I can go right here to my column and right click, add a new column, and let's say we'll add a 3rd column. So now we have 3 columns here rather than just the 1, and I can pull that video to the middle. And so say I want to make this a little bigger, I can actually drag that out, and we'll just make this left-hand column, we'll make it 10, and the right-hand column, we'll make that 10 as well. And there you go. So then we could also add elements into here if we wanted to. I don't think it will make sense to in this case, but just so you see. So maybe we want to delete this and have a little more space on the left-hand side and put another element over here. We can go ahead and right-click and delete that column. So now we're back to having 2 columns. And we'll go ahead and just make that video a little bigger, and we can add in, let's say, a text editor, maybe an image box, just to see something slightly different. Okay, so this is going to give us the option to have an image, a larger heading, and then a paragraph section. So one thing that I'm going to do, because this inserted at the top, and I just want this to be centered instead of at the top, is I'm going to go onto the column setting, and I'm going to edit this column, and the vertical align, I'm going to put that to middle, and that's going to drop it down to the center. Same thing I could do if I wanted it at the bottom. I could select bottom. So that's one thing to note, is the positioning in the column. You can change where that is by default. So now I'm going to go and change this picture. So let's click on the picture, and we can choose an image. And I'm going to use my logo for that, and we'll insert that. And then we can change the width. So we'll just make it full width. And then, we can change any of this as well. And same thing down here. But also, go back to content while we're in this. We can also change this content right here as well. Just so you know what your options are. So maybe I decide I don't want this after all. I can right click and delete that element. And let's say we want to add a button. Let's see what options we have down here. So let's say we want to add social icons over here. So we'll add these social icons. And then we can change which social icons we're using. I don't think Google Plus is even a social media anymore, so Elementor should update that at some point. But we can go into our icons library, and let's say we want to use Twitter. So we'll use Twitter. Oh, we already had Twitter. So let's change Twitter up here to Instagram. I think Instagram is a little more popular. Yeah, so we got an Instagram icon, and we can insert that icon. And then we can change the colors if we want to use what it calls official color or custom color. Let's say the primary color, we'll just make that maybe a pinkish purple. So then to get there, I usually just click on one of the colors to bring back my color options, and we'll go over to, let's say the pink side. Like that right there. So I think that looks pretty good. And I want this to float down here to the bottom. So what I'm going to do again is I'm going to edit my column, and I'm going to change that to bottom. It's going to drop it right down to the bottom. So now that I have all this extra space, let's put a picture up here. So to get back to my tools, to get back to my elements that I can add here, I'm going to click on these 9 squares, and it brings me back to all my tools. And let's just say I'm going to add an image. Oh, let's try that again. I think I'm scrolled a little too far down. There we go. So I'm going to add an image just above those social icons. And I have to drop it where you see the blue line is where it's actually going to go. Oh, I grabbed the wrong element, so I need to delete that. Okay, so I'm going to grab an image, and I'm going to drag it over here, and I just want to highlight, and where the blue line shows up is where it's actually going to drop that element. So let's change this image to one of our stock images that's on this website, and let's go ahead and bring this back up to the center, because I think now that we have some more content here, it would look better in the center. So a lot of it is just playing around and seeing what you like, and actually having this image here above these. I think I would prefer to have my video on this side just for the changing proportions, having the wider section and the narrow section. I want to have a wider section on the left hand side and a narrow section on the right. So what I'm going to do, that's dictated by our column. So I'm going to grab the column, and I'm going to drag it over to the opposite side and let go. And so that reorders our columns left and right. So I think that's a little more balanced right there. So this gives you some options and ideas of how you can edit some of the sections on your website. If I want to delete this, if I ended up deciding that I wanted to delete this, I can hit the X and I'll delete that section. And once I'm finished editing this, I can hit update, and that's going to update the website live, unless you have it on a development server or in maintenance mode, which we can go into in another video. But that will update all of the changes. So your changes are being saved incrementally as you go. They're just not posted publicly live. So you do want to do an update once you're done with your page. And again, we can go to this menu option and view page to view the page outside of the editor. And so that'll give us an idea of how things look. And those are some of the basics on how to start editing your website. Now I'll show you some of the options for editing your header. We want to make sure we're not in the Elementor editor because we won't have this bar across the top if we're inside the editor. So when we're not in the Elementor editor, we'll find the Customize option when we are logged in. So we want to select Customize. Okay, so this is going to give us our options to change elements in our header. So these little pencil icons will help us to jump to the different sections of the header and what we're going to edit within the header. Other than that, if we just look at the structure here, we can find the main page. There's a header option right here. And then under site identity, you'll find where you can add your logo. You can remove their logo. Another option too is to do a different logo for Retina displays. So higher resolution displays, you'll be able to select this and then upload an image that is of a higher resolution. So if you keep your lower resolution standard icon, it can look pixelated on a Retina display. So this just gives you the option that when your website determines that the device that's accessing it has a Retina display, it'll show it this higher resolution file. And then you have a few other options here. This is one option where you can add your tagline, and that'll just show up in a smaller font underneath your website name. And you may decide to not include your website name at all. So let's say we don't want to display that. And you may do that if your logo already includes your website name. So that's just an option. And that's how you would edit some of the elements here in your header. So let's jump back and say we want to edit our menu. So we'll go back here where we found our header. So we'll go ahead and go into our menu options. So we see that the main menu is the one that's currently used as our primary menu, and we can see about, work with me, books, that matches what we have. So if we want to move things around, we can just drag and drop over here and change things. And we can also add items. So let's say we want to add products, add discovery session, and then that will add discovery session as an item in your menu. So I'm just going to go ahead and delete that back, remove that, and then I'm going to change the structure back to what it was. And then we had blogs. Let's see. That's another thing you can. So you can also drag things to the right and make them sub menu items. So within about, you have books. So I didn't actually want that, so I'm going to drag it back to the left, drag each of these back to the left, all of them. There we go. So now I can change the order. And if I do something that I don't like here, I can actually just close out of this and tell it, okay, I understand that changes will be lost, and it won't save those changes. All right, so that's our first lesson on getting started with the Elementor Page Builder and starting to build your website with WordPress. If you have any questions, go ahead and head over to the Facebook group and ask your questions over there, and I'll be happy to help you out with any of this. So again, you can get to that easily by going to richtoymedia.com/group. I'll see you in the next video.